Okay, so opening appears. And those enemies who hate me are subject to harm me.
And those who bring our souls on high to liberation and omniscience, may they experience happiness, be separated from suffering, and swiftly will I establish them in a state of unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious Buddhahood. All maleficent beings, especially those at peace with me, afflictors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and omniscience, may they experience happiness, be separated from suffering, and swiftly will I establish them in the state of unsurpassed, perfect, complete, precious Buddhahood.
Chu tso da la dong war ji be da no ji be ge dar wa da dam jen jen be bar da ju bar da ji ji zo ji ma nong ga da nyam be sam jen dam ji de wa dong de dong ra da ji Ngur ge lang na me bar yang da bar zo be Changchub Rinpoche to bar jiao.
Thus, until I achieve enlightenment, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Until then, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. From now until this time tomorrow, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind.
De ye je de san ma je je war de lung a ye song ge wa la gor ma ye war de lung a ye song ge wa la gor de de re ne song de ne ma wa de lung a ye song ge wa la go.
Thus, until I achieve enlightenment, I perform virtuous
And the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of the Philosophy and other good deeds, may I obtain Buddhahood with the sake of all sentient beings. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of the Philosophy and other good deeds, may I obtain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings.
San je chu da zo je jo nam lai chan ju par de da ne job sun chen and da ge jen so jin be son nam je do la pen je san je do ba shu.
Boundary set aside, have happenings and the cause of the happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the cause of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. May all members sentient beings, boundary set aside, have happenings and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the cause of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion.
Ma nam ga dai nyam be sam chen dam je de wa dai de be ju dan den bor ju je dong ra dan dong ra ke ju dan je wa ju je ara me be de wa dam de wa ju je ne re ja da ni da je an yong la ne ba ju je.
Whatever merit I have gathered through prostrations, offerings, confession, rejoicing, beseeching, and praying, for the sake of the enlightenment of all sentient beings, all this I dedicate.
Chang zi wa dai ju jian ya ba dai jie zi ye rang gu jian so wa ye ge wa jung zi da ge jie za ba tang jie zo me chang ju jian bo
Unequaled refuge, ornament of the world, your fame pervades the 3,000 worlds. You are the victor, Vajradhara, without a doubt. I bow at the feet of the Father, Jigten Sumgum. Continually I think of no one but you. Compassionate one, grant your blessings. Dispel the darkness that surrounds my heart. Please bless me so that I may realize the unelaborated nature of mind.
Hoi jam zhen jie tong mian zom len jian ta bie dong song yong lai jiao an zhou le mi jiao wang dou le jian jiao ban jie dan gong gui xiao lan du an tui da de sam jie jiu le mi jian jie lao xian tu jie jian Nyingpo mamba sene jiang sem zhu de se do ba rai jian jie lo.
The ground is sprinkled with scented water and strewn with flowers. It is adorned with Meru, the supreme mountain, the 4 continents, and the sun and moon. As a Buddha field, I offer it. May all sentient beings attain the happiness of the Buddha fields. Om Guru Deva Dakini Ratna Mandala Pratitsa Soha.
Hoi sa jie bu jue jiu xian me do dong zhe ra ling ye nian de jian ban de san jie xian lai mei de Phowa yin do ge nam da xian de jiu bai xiu Om Guru Deva Dakini Ratna Mandala
Please turn the wheel of the Dharma of the 2 vehicles and their combination according to the dispositions and likewise the mental capacities of sentient beings.
Sem jie nam jie zong ba dong lo ye jie da wa a jie jiang yan de mo te ba ye chu jian ko lo go le so. Dam ge du jie xiao jie le song zhong xian jie me dou du jie gong jiong bao si jie leng bo dao wo le jie wei xia jie jie bei xiao la ge jiao zi chen mei wo zi le dou jie jing gu le de ma de xie jie wo wo jie dao wa tam jie se wa ge jian chui jie jie yan mian liu jian ge jiao zi 去见迎接波浪的 Sum Sanje Gunje Ngoni, Ransum Jogan, Sum Tongze Be, Zavelame Shangla Gujan, Kanda Chajur Dongjen Jitena, the Kelomar Churwa Kansad. Tender Dombe Chujen Jara Beba Zambara Dova Dajin De Yeshen Namor Yala Yegi Dana Dana Jigi, Drong Dada Mi Genum Ne, Dova Geje Jake Zam, Tam Jake Dada Geju Den. Good evening.
Evening.
So do you have some questions regarding the Phowa? Or you already got it?
So, I heard, actually let me say this. So this Vajrayogini visualization in Phowa is identical to Vajrayogini in her regular form, except the legs are different, right? In Vajrayogini Sadhana, she stands on the left leg,
Right.
Here she stands on the right leg. So two questions. One is silly, why? And the second one, does it make a difference? Like, for example, because I'm accustomed to doing it this way, because I've been doing Vajrayogini for so many years, it's so difficult for me to, like, all of a sudden switch, because I'm just so used to doing it where she's standing on the left leg. So can we do it that way, or it's better to do it, you know, where she stands on the right leg?
Tirawa, Re Takoti Natsoti Kobesha Nangi Chigo Yores. Tinidako dis Latazuke Jatan Hak Ngodi Lati Jatan Katanshu Nagiri, Jatan Tabik Nawa Chik Rawa Tabik Nawa Tella, Tini Ta Sondu, Tinitan Dini Yore Seajico, Tabit Nawa Jiri, Tindu, Go Tabit Nawa Tella, Tini Yang Samle Disco. Order no Ramada Yonsigra in a tea, Natsuki, Tamebeke, Ambuk Jude, Remendoa, Tenditine, Chita, One Nyam Lenke, Kotopa Moten Jordan, Consulta, Telaudaco, Chik Chu Tamchike, Ten Nelo, Cochetawa, Chending and Zuketa, Masosha Jora, most tone there. Tomba scenario experience renare tiniji chi de rutine da kotela gopa tang jumsen dang tindi yores tindi indu ko jetang na choron laba na yiri jing pamo okay tanda di jetang nga zum pamo jetang pamo mambo shiyo yore da pamo nga zo bena dimcho yam ro samo dang vina nga so dem cho henji lo tela phamol ta chap ninja ya kom de wa tindi yore tene tega na yi ta da nga so phamol nyamle chi ya de chora la ba na yi tindi yore tega na ya ta phamol mambo ji standing tega chap ninja ma jang de jo tindi yore in ta ta phowe la yang ko this ko yi kom de wa tindi yore wa ta tindi ne te Dordu Shubina, Tinita Kanda, Kopechina Khan, you what and what Tapi Chine, Congoya in Sares.
And so generally, we visualize the way it is described in the sadhana. And so regarding the nature of the deity, so if one possesses a pure perception and one sees the deity as it actually is, like this is how it exactly looks like. And so it may maybe one may not understand why sometimes it appears differently, but now the deity is not like something that appears to our ordinary senses. But deity appeared to those individuals who have attained realization, who have seen the nature of all phenomena really as it is. And so from their own personal experience, they described the deity that they saw directly through their personal experience. And then there is a significance to each of their the details that they share. And so, as you said, there are different forms of Vajrayogini. For example, in the Chakasambhara, she's Chakasambhara's consort. There's in the Chakasambhara, the co-emergent Chakasambhara tradition, there is an image where both legs are slightly bent. And then there is the Vajrayogini that you had mentioned, Vajrayogini that's standing up. But in any case, now in this context of poem, we basically should visualize just how it is described in the sadhana.
Tindutine, ta Jatanti could ne Mambo Yungudoa, Karsina, ta Tambo some Tambo de Canditan Gorsina, Jatanga, La Zidu Benatanda, Wapa me, Slowgro Tangando tea, Tine, Pure and the Nigeri Seadita. Jingatsuki ko support no jita the Nigeri say Jingatota, Jiken Deacon on that, Tongo Grua, the Nijiko, Matobi, Moning to Tanga de Langone Marwa, Langone Chadio Maris, then the Dumando that the Nido so here in a could Dumangone Marwa. Tindu Tatanda Keko Emejita, so card Laguer Sena. 다 지금 가서 support 되는지 요래서 뺀다고 협상하고지. 그가 나이게 컨트리뷰와 라도 참마라 뺀나자 하나 드네가 침부 쉬우래 텐드 다 라자마라 뺀나 돈만도디 나도와 텔레징아라 그래. 다 뺀나 와제 파모도인 토방아요래. 다 롱조조베 그 참마라 자와링아 링이 의견바 시요래. 다 링에 그 짐바데 간디레 슬라비나 다 뇽몽베케 다 자와세나리 중공세나리 기타 뇽몽보 휴요르존 산지 줌된데 까올라 되네 다 빼나 뇽몽바 므떡소 Nyingpo jet hitong song yorwa. Yin tanda ziyawe jet hitong saya yo mare. Rawa. Yin ya ti ta tindi ke Nyingpo jet hitong ke kun jungkung zawan rawo ti ta chiungbi kabla tene hin jungsa ti ta marek balare. Marek ba teleteni Tene, Tanga to Telagdo, Chadang, Sayajita, Chumbre. Taco Kanyan Gutsuksan Roa. Chadang Nimbudi, Candidate Lavina, as a Tam Jona, Yiri Lagdo, Tam Joya Tsana, Jipajibaya Tsar Grace. Kojig Rimbocha, Jig Tunduncha, Tini Yomers. Ko Chadang Nipuchipajikan Yoresco. T Chadang Nipukun long with Gala. 다 뇽몽바 다 자와가 차오다 다 뇽몽베게 자와가 되다 중사 루트 차디 여러분 대차용베 갑라 다 드니 진단가 좀 걸바세나리 다 강이 태고요 얘네야 다야 냠래 치네 당보 뇽몽바 마렉바데 차단지네 되네 다 가서 Nyingpo 다 냠래 치네 하도 간디 지르나 다 Nyingpo 초르 로 Nyingpo ngati 되네 다 고토당 mam보여와 Nyingpo 빠야 요래 Nyingpo le 이게 선주리야 요래 Nyingpo 다 지랑이 기코라 통야요 칸다리야 통비게 ngo텔라 다 가르쳐 버스나 되네 가서 다 베나 Yawa Regna, say a Chagoda Regna. 레가 틀에 카타 레가 코랑 니바까지는 근데 이행아요다. 근데 이제 기타가서 총고 라트서 나오는다. 베나 레가서 다 링한데 희용나리 토방아 지기용나리 강다다디 총지 칸 총고서는 다 레가요나 다 디게 라들라 다 용보 메와 용보 초와 어떻게 이제 총고요레스.
So, for example, the way we should think about the deities is, for example, when we see this Amitabha Atanka and Amitabha painting, or this is the Pure Land, an image of the Pure Land, then these images are support for us, a meditation support. Because we need something that we can show in this world, that we can understand in this world. But it doesn't mean that the Tanka itself is the real deity. For example, the Tara Tanka here, we can't say it's the real deity, but it's a representation of the deity. It is a support mainly, like an illustration of the deity. For example, the crucial point of all the deities is, for example, we have those 5 forms of Tara, or the deity as of Vajrayogini possesses a crown ornament of 5 dried skulls, and actually all the Sambhogakaya forms possess a 5 Buddha family crown ornament. And so what we need to understand is what that actually means. So the root or the source of the afflictive emotions. At the time of the Buddha listed 84,000 different afflictive emotions. And of course, if we now would try to count all of these afflictions, we might not come up with 84,000. But the source of all these afflictive emotions is ignorance. And so from ignorance arise what we normally refer to as attachment and aversion. And that is where all difficulty begins. And so attachment and aversion arise equally. So it's not that one one is bigger than the other one, but they arise naturally, equally out of ignorance. And so the afflictive emotions have this one source, and that is the source of all difficulty or suffering in samsara. It is ignorance. So from ignorance arise the afflictive emotions, and the deity is a representation of a being that has liberated the afflictive emotions. And then there are many different ways of liberating the afflictive emotions. For example, we can abandon them, can avoid them, or we can transform them, or we can see their nature. And when we see their nature, the essence of those afflictive emotions, their nature is the 5 Buddha families. And the nature of those 5 Buddhas is the 5 wisdoms. And that is really what, for instance, the 5-fold crown ornament of a deity represents. So it represents an absence, a liberation of the afflictive emotions.
어때 뒤인데 다 딘디게 topic 나와 소래. 근데 제가 나 얘기다 단다디 다 텐도가 가서 베나 돌지 파모 라 카리오레 라위나 근데 단단가도다 토바 토롱가 주기 토샤라 토롱가 지정이 있었다 되게 토샤리오레라고 당가서 롱 넥클래스 나오러 다 텐다고 가르 총구요래랑 당가서 파다위나 오네리시도 다 가레스다 텐데지베 토바지 텐데 무흥고지 다 텐데지 켄소 휴지 현황소 휴지 출구도와 얘네야 돈다 대 파모케 텐데지지가 깨공대와 말와 가르 총구요래 라위나 다 댕기 공티와나 예레 뇽모망아 티네 야리아 손데다 심중업추 ngani ta ngap chung ngani sa samjung ngap chung ngani ta namto rakpa re namto rakpa ta koji number topa jet chitong ke nam ya rakpa de khare la na ngapchingani yore. Ta ngapchingani ti kartsong gore lawina. Ta nyong be jesi ki ngapchingani ti. Tene ta tanda simjung tanda tobang te mu hungo ji do mu hungo te ta ji xia yo da. Ji xia de karsan ta nga zo men wo ji si cha na xia cha na ta ku number xia yo ma ro ko xia cha da. O da ten chong ya ki chi de la. Be la de zo ro win da. Ko number to pa to chong ma ta xia cha res da. Yo ma res. Tindi ken chong ya ge de ne da ta 도방가 주기 때문에 더 샤르세야 텐데 연구 여러와.
So we see the deity with a pure perception. And for example, Vajrayogini also has a long necklace made of 52 wet skulls or wet freshly severed heads. And so when we look at that, it may seem that that is a little strange, and it looks a bit scary, cut off heads, but also that it has a meaning. So it's not just some kind of nice adornment for Vajrayogini, but it has a meaning. And so the 5 main afflictive emotions then become 52. What is called 52 mental events, and these are more coarse afflictive emotions. So we have a total of 84,000, and then of these 52 are more the coarse afflictive emotions. And there's 52 objects toward whom we develop afflictive emotions, and there's significance in a cut off head. Because, for example, when you cut off somebody's head, then they can no longer think, obviously, because they're dead. And so similarly, deities have no more thoughts, no conceptuality. All conceptuality has died off, has ceased. It does not exist. There's no more conceptuality. So that is, for example, what this long necklace of 52 freshly severed head represents.
我的店里打拉给我是，我的店里就从过有啥的是，他等于的个车这个肯定能够从么的。
So it represents the essence of the deity. And what was the other question you had?
It was really just about the legs. What makes a difference whether she stands on the left or the right leg?
Okay.
I'm pretty clear.
Okay.
And then once again, maybe if Rinpoche has time to talk just a little bit about doing Phowa for others.
Okay. Right. So the other questions?
Why was Amitabha's aspiration so powerful that then all these people that just make the aspiration to be born in the pure realm, that it can happen?
Oh, so Amitabha is more powerful, right? Is it?
What happened that his aspiration to save beings this way through Phowa, like, can you tell a little bit about that story, about why there's Dewachin and why it's like a swift path without so much practice? Like, what was...
Ritini riwata di karse gorda ko angbo sangje tang Changchub simba tazo la ko tab kewa yinba, tukji chenpo yinba, tindiji yindu ti nane ko simchen la yang ko jik ngone angbo rab, angbo ring, ta kanda nga hila migewa yowa nga hila dikwa Changchub ta mangbo jik yorwa tindu tanda jitang nga zo hinkam seya di ko changlin dewa tindiji yori ina da ti nane tanda da dewa jenji hinkam jeya atala tini 저 포와라 소바 다나 모랑 클라바나 예 오파미 te tape 닝지 kedani tindiri tindindu ko 닝지 chewe tindi den ta je hyojing benanga so dewajen jewa chiwala jiten di zamno tangwi na jik dis ko such a Kahin Rona Gatotachi, Jacob Shimbando and Roya and Odaji. Hina the requirement Mambo Yorwa, Benevisa and Oshuya and Oda Pe Kalikawa Hiyorwa. Hina ko Jacob Kayeta, Jindoya Lila and permission to the Shedamago and Oda, Tiso and Oji, Kandaria, Anjik Metala ko Tigana Yigita requirement ko Yamana. Such a Shimbando could not love Joya Boyovata, Karina Giana, Beha Mamboyo, Tison of Jungur Watindi. The Deva Gente, Tindi Maimba, the Deva Gente, Koji, Tana de Sumdo, as poor parties, poor parties, Chiatele Casana, Rinpoche, sent up the Sanjevi Dama Laudo, that Dipa Yuna Yang, Atene, could Deva Gente, Jeto Grace, Tindi, Jumzen Carisena, Tene, Ninji Caranzo. Tigana Yita, Bigpa Janti, Phowa and Yamlan, cheaper some jeke, ta, the water, Tando Yomare. Yin and young Carsonage, Wapa me de, Kotsevi Kedani, that Wapa me the Jenes and Chipa Imbade, the Ninjake Dani in the Jum Central Zene, Tangaji, Cockap Roji, Cockap in Benatanda. Rinpoche and Roina, that man is on loss of one Rogrova, Temando, Tekachi. Tekani, that Benayamana, the Phowa de letter theory, Carsanangazo, Benyason yar, Torija. Torine, that Hinkam Devajan loss of a Jayoro. Benson of Shubina, not a Phowa de la Dene, that was making Yamera. Until then, Phowa and Yamlachi, Phowa Yamlachi, Benata, the Poche and Rowena, Nianson and Dromodo, Tenjor Muluji top. Muluji top within it, Tao of me, the Sanji Town, Chanjos and Big, Tuji, let Danny, the Koran Kichi, Chu, Mukuludian top, Chu Chia, Kokabra, Tindichi, Chuchin, Kalichin, Tanyama de Pomosa, the Jantobia. What in the race, Tindidine. That's all Casamona got to the things that Ninji, Jetala, some Ninji Meva, the Mari, the Ina, Tina, the Kota, Chip Ninji Chewa, Tindiki Jumse, Race, Labgoa, Tigana Yitangazo, or Tanda Paduka Kavlang, as a Hetsavi Kavla, Temrem Tindu, Heta Temrem Mari. Tangato, Chica Pado, say, Ando Yori. Tennis on the Chuni Pado, say, Tikinana, Teneti Hingam Town, Lada, Tenisharding Gudoa, Tenisharbe Gavla, Benasha, Durjesim Bekita, Shachok Mombergavi, Hingam Rowina, Nichia, Skaleka Boyores, Jim Sen Carsanata, Chooks no Japan Rolo Sarawa, Chikigananga to Mohiena, Tene, Shachok Mombergavi, Hingam, Cheto Buyore, Tika Longondo Mazimbina, Tene, got out. TV the mass of Bandotarawa. Tindi Deva Janji Shinkamtela, Teneti Jayala Lelawo. Tene Deva Janji Shinkam Jayala, Tanda Kont Shubana Yiri. Deva Janji Shinkam Jayala, in J meaning of the Sanji Goat in the Yosamarawa. Ko Deva Yuna, Deva Janji Shinkam, Jetubu Sarawa. Tanda Deva Janji Chami, Demonal Doa, Deva Janji Shinkam Lea, J Sona, Tene, Te Jene, Tene. Taco Chushu. To Chushuyala, that they were in Shinkami Duji. Go Chushuyala Lela Wondo, Yosarawa. Go Chushu. Tinichu Yamlanchi. That they put young, Tenijin, they were in Shinkamian Sanji and Rotini Young Yosaris.
Sorry, my mute button. Okay, so the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas are extremely skillful and have great compassion, and so there are also all kinds of different individuals. There are those with higher mental capacities, those with average capacities. There are those who have committed a lot of misdeeds. And there are those who have purified their misdeeds already. So there's a great variety of different individuals. And there are different pure lands for different individuals. And among all of these countless Pure Lands, it is said that it is the easiest to be born in Dewa Chen. And that is because, as we also know from the Phowa practice, that is because of the Buddha Amitabha's great compassion. He's an embodiment of great compassion. And he made it possible that even a sinful person can be born in the pure land of Dewa Chen. So, for example, if you think about it in a worldly sense now, there's different countries in the world. And depending on where you want to go, there are different requirements. So there are certain countries where they have a lot of requirements for you to go there. You need a visa, and it's very difficult to get there. And then there's other countries where it's rather easy to get to. They don't have all kinds of different permissions that you need. You can just go. But other countries, you might have to show some proof of education, or you need a lot of money, and so on. Different criteria you need to have. And so it is with the Pure Lands. Dewa Chen is one where there are not so many requirements, where it is easier to go. In the Phowa practice, it says that this is a method to forcefully bring even a sinful person to enlightenment. So even a sinful person can be born in Dewa Chen because of the Buddha Amitabha's great compassion. So if a sinful person simply practices Phowa, of course, all the negativity will not just become purified, but because of the Buddha Amitabha's love and compassion, and also Chenrezig's, and they're the same, and we have an opportunity to be born in that Pure Land. So let's say a sinful person has the karma to be born in the lower realms. So if they do this practice, then they will not have to go to the lower realms. So the doors to the lower realms are shut. And through the practice of Phowa, those who are to be born in the lower realms are born in the higher realms. And those who are in the higher realms are born in the Pure Land of Dewa Chen. For example, someone who is sinful and who practices Phowa and who practices Amitabha, they might not have to go to the lower realms, but they might be born as a precious human body with the freedoms and advantages, and then have an opportunity to encounter the Dharma and practice the Dharma. And in this way, they slowly will purify their negativities. So it's not the case that other deities don't have that kind of compassion. Of course they do, but among the different deities, Amitabha and also Chenrezig, are really special embodiments of such compassion. Also later in the bardo, after we have died and we go into the bardo, so we go from the bardo of dying into the bardo of dharmata, and there the various deities and Pure Lands actually manifest to us. But for example, when Vajrasattva manifests, his Pure Land is the Eastern Pure Land of manifest joy. And we may see that, but it's very difficult to be born in that Pure Land. Because during that time in the bardo, we might go there for just a brief instant, a flash of an instant. And of course, if we recognize that, we can be born in his Pure Land, but we might not recognize it because it just flashes, just like a flash on TV, and then it's gone again. And so in comparison, it's much easier to be born in Dewa Chen. And also, it is not necessary to attain enlightenment or liberation in order to be born in Dewa Chen. Even a sinful person can be born there. It is said in Chamaraga Asia's aspiration prayer of Dewa Chen that once one is born in Dewa Chen, it's easy for one then to receive Dharma teachings there and practice the Dharma there. And then as one practices the Dharma there, one purifies one's negative karma, and then in Dewa Chen attains enlightenment.
Okay. 我在店里，在店里嘛就录音，在就当个做在破的，谈起在破就当个做在念嘞七月的，店里在就当破的了， Nyamlen Chidu, Tene, that Kazan Chi Hu Simbari in a Jetang Phowa de la Chik Ta Tongyang la ko Chetang Korang ke ta nga zo karse gore. Yang lu ke za sangyan tindi yore, za sangyan tang tindi la tene ko Phowa. Ta zo za sangyan ri tega nangi ta jik focus chi tu min dang, tega nangi ke jik teba yi chi yomi ta mangbo jik ra le gu yore wa. Ina Chetang Phowa de ko ta tongyang de le lo yore sungu do wa. Tindi ta nga he ndo samno tang bi na jik 망보 지다 로주 망보 요래 되네 가히 포와 참디 되네 딜랑가 좋다 냐마 참베케 로파 칭년도 칼라 땡년도 되네 요러와 티엔두 지 켄서 요사레 카스나고 삼바 코랑야 포와 파디 치고리 이나코 딱 마통오네 되네 코랑케 딱 칼라소년도 당치 냠 땡년 솔라야 포와 탭데와 되네 로주 되네도와 대가 나기 기타 가장 쉬운 바 제당 같은 드공 가주 코랑게 직 로히를 캐나라 되네 포와 난거요 다 제당 포와 두주도 난거요와 이나야 되네 직 강자 소속 포와 고마고와 되네 야 코랑서 갈색 거지 장이 포와 이래 라메크 포와 나오비가라 포와 템로야 어다 되네 용구요레스 되네 다 가장 나로박 송로와 아직 곰베 상제 꾼라요 마곰 상제 나라요 손드티네 지 당가시 원에탄에 곰마고에 게 토네 되네 지 포에 다통야 다지 곰네 되네베 주중보 다 베제트 송도와 둔타 제 다니 페제 둔타 좀 고르게 요 말이스 페제다 둔타 니스 나라더니 포웨케다 간리지 미나다 제고 주rinho 계신 거비나 둔타 니엘라 고고 말이스 포웨다 통그레 정도
And then regarding the signs of Phowa that arise as a result of our practice, so there's all kinds of different signs that may arise, and so it also depends that the signs that arise also depend really on our practice, on our channels, and our focus on our faith, our devotion, and many different things. But so generally it is said that it's quite easy to develop these signs of accomplishing Phowa. There are many stories about that. For example, there are many stories about Phowa practitioners who have been in retreat practicing Phowa, and they've had helpers, assistants, for example, those who have provided food for them and so on. And so they stayed together with the retreatant and just gave them food. But it also had happened that the one who actually provided them with food, the assistant, the supporting person, was the one who then actually developed signs of Phowa. Or also in the Drupon Kagyu tradition, the Phowa teachings are given every 4 years, and of course they're always given, but every 4 years they're given by a high lama, and when one receives these teachings, it's possible that one doesn't have to practice even Phowa, and just naturally signs occur. As you mentioned the other day, Naropa had said everyone has a method to attain enlightenment through meditation practice. I have a method to attain enlightenment without the need to practice meditation. And there are really many who develop signs simply like that, without needing to meditate for long. So let's say if you really practice for like a week or two, you will probably, anyone will have signs. Probably no one, it will probably not take anyone 3 weeks. Within a week or two, probably anyone can develop a sign.
Tini Sandi Kariori Sina Kazan Ta. Ta the Phowa Jazu Sia Terita, Nazochik. Nazza long tini Kombala Tini Chikta, the Undo, Chongching Jama, Zanjama Zutoya Ketati, Ta Tim Bari. That Tindi, that may be in a young, something out of that, Chik, some de la young, Chik Savrado, eating do. Tindi, Chombina, young, that is. Young Tegana Yike, that Chik this, go this Navando. Tindi, Chombina, Tango Nava Zamjik, the Inamena Hakomason. In a good up sorry. Then sometimes this Kodia, this Bogiores de la Soundela, this Bonbon of Chagiores. So in the Sundays. You are this puppy, honey.
So in a Phowa text, also it is said that a sign of accomplishing Phowa is, for example, that one is able to plant a wild grass stalk into the crown opening, and then it would stay there. Or another sign would be an itching sensation at the crown, or a little headache in that area. But I'm not so sure if just simply having a headache is a sign of accomplishing Phowa. But it's a certain kind of headache. And then also as some swelling, maybe some bump coming out at the crown would be a sign.
So there you guys have sign. Dine Tam dine jik yang dine ko karsa chunda woda jik this talk da woda dine tongna da is.
Right. And also sometimes another sign would be some like liquid and water or blood to emerge from the crown.
Okay, so this you have questions there or no? Okay, so 다 대치 다 가서 디 레레 jarwa 세지 요레스 레레 jarwa다 단다 디 가서 라야 참마데다 오다 테레 다디 디직시스네 다 계시 다 단다 가서 다 와파미 공고요리 까고요와 이나 양다지 랑히야게다 따노데 차상 하코완도 신도구 요완도 신도구지나 다 히야 하코위나 Then I thought that the Waha make Tonga Maris, open chin, Capto Yamana, there are Jinji Hong let me party, Yamana, Waha make Toka Ninkatine, the Uyores.
Sorry. Yes. Right. So now for the application of Phowa, the application is in the time when we actually apply it, when we die. And so we have visualized Buddha Amitabha above our crown. And so when all the signs of death are complete, when it's certain that we are going to die, then we do not visualize the Buddha Amitabha's toe blocking the entrance to the central channel. But at this time, it is completely open, so the consciousness can leave. And then the dying person either directs their awareness to Dewa Chen itself, or they focus on the Buddha Amitabha's heart.
That did it. The Netanga to Danipa Lele Jarwa Sia Trida. 다 레레 저와 텔라 카리오르 세나다 맞죠 레레 저베 까울라 인지 미니 파로르 가자 휴버레 텐데지 강자티 다 맞죠 등장하고 있나 지 멤버이나 코메트 희송을 해야지 용거와 다 되나 강다리야 코메트지 되네 희송하지 희차와지를 되네 포자고 요래 스테마토 빅다 고 케시 되네지다 힐라마히노 되네 포자 쪽 말레스 케시 되는데 위나 되네 지금 몰라더니 거지 시비니 환하고더니 연구해서와
And so then the application of Phowa, when we practice it for somebody else, then so the Phowa must be practiced after somebody had already died. So when, for example, nowadays a doctor would declare someone dead, so after one has actually clinically passed away, that is when one should perform Phowa for someone else. And it's not actually permissible to any time before one has died, because then there is a danger that one might actually kill that person.
tindandene magic tido iji login tende tenda tere tada stadre tada himata la so da hesone da himata de da ji ko karmanga jurunga khal sindo na je thadis da chone dis jingdones chu ta ne usun di hin ninkar chu ondo pongas 다 뒤인데다 제단지 그 희송 차와 대가랑한테는 직디스 그투 오메 그 메도데다 갈리 냠거도와 다투 냠당라 양디스 가요서리 인다 단단디나나 칼라부도라나 되네 직 투트다 거네 투트 직 강바다 라파네 투 메완도 차 되네 칼레다 그 닝칼레야 템 되네 틴디게 강바당 라페케 투트마 예베 갑라 라고서리 yenla hike patsa chuchi jeng sta nga zo ta tangi odongya te yang tene chuchi tega na yi ke ta nga zo de za patsa yorwa la pe ke za te yang tene pharia me wa cha zamles tin ta tega na yi ke ta nga zo ro wina jing ta odongya de zo cha be hyu la hsong la gro wa tin ni na yang 단데라 제당가서 다 according to the text 카레레스나 치 옥치 세야지다 낭 옥치 세야지 니용거도와 데다 고지 치 옥치네 다 나오 라타파치 송완도로와 어디가블라스 다 나오 체마타 정도 나오지 단데게지 로기 치오치네 중지 송외 치고치네 중지 송외 나오 치마타바스다 나오 지다지 코랑베 나케 오트 참마다지 히마타바 티니라 풍붕 구조다 폴섭소 마지비가다 풍보도 되네 방가서 징구야도 유야도다 되네지 야 파킹로다 등산디 스칼레 가보여와 지면 강도이나 거다 해송럽다 키죽럽으로와 킹도고요래 당원이 진짜 드기면도와 티니다 풍보디 원에 지 다지나 풍도이나 니마 징이 샤고요와 테미비나 다 뇽달라고 주소 같이 샤고야지 주소 지지 그트니 샤고 차고요사리스 갑테스
And so, like in the Phowa text, then it says, so when one has died, so immediately after one has died, so minutes, 5 to 15 minutes or so, and their body heat declines, and so there are also different ways of body heat declining on different places, but basically the body heat draws in from the limbs and then dissolves into the heart. So it kind of draws inward and then dissolves into the heart. And so when But the time when one practices Phowa now is when the heat of the legs and the hands has not yet completely diminished, but one does not feel any pulse when touching the hands any longer, and breathing has ceased. So normally when a person stops breathing, and then we declare them deceased. So, but according to the text, there is an outer breath and an inner breath. And so after the outer breath has ceased, and immediately upon the cessation of the inner breath, that is that time. And so that also requires that the body is not removed yet upon death. And of course, nowadays that's a little bit difficult. Normally, when somebody dies, the body is taken away right away, but that's actually not so good. At least one should leave the body be for a few hours.
다 단단 디나랑 가서 초드네 송도이나 다 지다 아지 강사 총년들라 아다 코랑케지 제와 칸디스 랭기요바 틴디라 때네 근데 지 초도 상요래 라고도 다 가시다 지당 것도 마싱올레 초도요래 다 가시 강발라파도 상마 초메와 차로도 이내야 다지 초바랍 틴디 인비나 되네 다 칼레 되네 지 강반에 초이에네 강반에 갈래 강바다 라파도 초이에네 되네 즉 사마 초디야 니가라다 야한테네 즉 지오라 초 상올라 초대와 드린다오이나 되네 강사 코라나야 즉 상진도야 상지 고마토야 포와 태바 틴리 포와 양다 가장가서 디탄다 다나가서 장르 해라고 같은데 말와 고 포와를 추후 포와 태비야 요래 롱후 포와 태비야 요래 되네 단다 기타 단단디 포데이나 템바전이 포와 탭그러와 어디는 오지나 다 포와 태바다 지금 토리런도야게 당선레스 다양 것이 지 강발락파데 초요비나 양 강반도 초요나트네 지 땅고다 되네 지 토카도 sommo 초예로요나 다지 레베 지네트네 지 남히네 마 다 가서 그래 상호는 마동와 고 힘반에 통원에 되네지 당연 손라로 라소와 제야 갔다는 것들이 있으라고도
And so there are different ways in which the heat declines in a person who is dying, and also often that can be a sign of where that person is going to take birth, the way the heat dissolves. So when before they die, the heat of the hands and legs declines. In the case of a great Dharma practitioner, so first the heat in the legs and hand declines, and then it gathers in the heart or at the crown. And for example, if you gather some at the crown, it is a sign that Phowa has been accomplished and that they are attaining enlightenment or liberation. And so again, there's different Phowa. So not just this Phowa that we are practicing. There's the Dharmakaya Phowa, Sambhogakaya Phowa, and the Phowa we are practicing here. But such signs are signs of birth in the higher realms. And then there's some who still have some heat in their hands and legs, but they have no more heat in their heart or at their crown. And that is a sign that their consciousness may not have left through the crown chakra and might have left through a different door, and could be a sign of birth in the lower realms.
근데 제가 나 이다 지당가서 다 지카세고 등산다 디스칼리 가보러와 particular 지 practitioner도 인비나 다 practitioner 이나면은 다 가서지 다 등산다 간디요나 강히는 냐만도 있나 가서 무지 통로고요나 근데 라마지 기당고요와 라마데 기당 근데 라마데 기당네 근데 라마데 기다 근데 초송 모두치 되네 대가 나이게 코리오 될라테네 양 jigta tangka dang tene jigta korang ke jig lama da wuyo na lame ke lama korang theba yu jo ka lama suyo so lame ke pa da zo sha tega na ye ke tene jigta korang ke jala tene sha ya yo mare la gudo chongken ke jala me ke tongsan ro ji jala so man tong yang ro chi ta tega na ye ke yang jigta de la dependent re sha karsana gashi jigta 총캔 가시기 직 배나 년딘도 어떻게 토고요나 토는 야가 요사라와 디스직 토는 야가 요사래 가서 토도 고지 로노 챔네 단데 송삼네 고 종구도와 양가시 배 휴지배 아타치트 배 다지랑게 보기나데 다 가리나 고지 네피오 남나 용즈기와 relate 틴디레 배 차바지나 되네 틴디 차바 효침부 요마나 되네 뭐 다티 총캔들더니 그 마토는 야요래 스탠드니 지 샘텔베 창로요래 스탠드 제가 나 이게 지 강사티게 딱 뭐보 자라는 거지 되네 지 디스파 만동야 샤야데 개침보래라고도 텐데더니 참참 샘되고 배 사도지 딜라레서 산제리서 대바도지 지 모멘트가 총이나 되네 거야 현감见로야 참는 사람도 잘라도 니리 어떤 가고도 나나 잘라리 선배 틴디직 샘 티토네 옥치비나 티네직 걸 가서 압스트가노 까데야 티네 응구여서와 티네 오다 티네키 룩수지요 제가 나 얘기다 초파도 정말 용무도와 초파 딱 가장 쉬운 바 티네 단다다 가서 라마베 자침보리 가서 왕롱 티솜 시사 차창 다 누군가지 기능 저 첨부 라마베 자 첨부에 텐데다 가장 드네 공부조 소화 라다라 때 라다 조네 드네 가르송도 센다 공래 다 공로 벤통보데 공로 자주 가시나 지그레 텐데네 지금 남주도 이나다 지 혼바자 토야 드네 요사마리 이나야 공래 기타 지 야지지 온가 조소야 하스 메시 조소 하네 공부조 드네 탑시 지라고도 대가 나이 가장 마랑기 년디지요 텐데 태양한테네 다그 녀탄달라비아키 좀 생직들이 양태서 참참 뭐토는 야요서라와 근데 모랑게 다 가서 그네마 티샤트네 퍼다 거라서 년디도 참마 용도네 모랑베 가오중 투지체 지랑소 타이 른보는 용벌에 다베 가오중 스타지고 중 다지고도 텐데 당가야 조소야 보지데 샤로 치슬람트네 텐데 다오치 테네 거랑베 검지한다 총송랍기도 어다 텐데 어ten데 테네 가서 직야 수고야 조소 해야 돼 개체모 인사리다 텐데지 티나네 테네 고파 짐sen 카리올라네 직 넘버 해바데다 다 포와 장원나기 직 넘버 해바 창올이라 동양 코카비여서와 어 텐데지 요레스
And so nowadays it might be a bit difficult, but especially if one is a practitioner in the old days and somebody's died, then there's a tradition of inviting Lama, who then gives Dharma teaching, some introduction, and then also one arranges their environment. For example, one sets up images of deities like Tankas, images of the Lama, just images that they develop faith in. And one keeps their personal belongings, different personal objects of attachment out of their sight. And of course, it depends. It's different it's different depending on the circumstance. For example, it might be the case that somebody still needs to meet somebody before they die. They really need to meet a relative, let's say. And if they have to meet that person, it's better for them to meet them, because then they will die content and they will feel that now it's completed. But on the other hand, it could be someone who is very attached to someone. For example, their child or nephew or some kind of relative. If somebody is really attached to someone, and then it's better for them not to meet that person that they're so attached to. And so similarly, it's better for them not to see their objects, their belongings of attachment around them. And so it's better for them to see the deity. When they see the deity, then they think, oh, that's the deity, or that's the Buddha. And then if they die with faith, with devotion, then they can take birth in the Pure Land. But then if the breathing stops while they think, oh, this is my thing, my object, then that could become an obstacle. So that's why there is this tradition of inviting a lama. And so anyways, also recently there has been a very important Drigong Kagyu Lama who has given important empowerments, his instructions and transmissions, a very precious Lama who had just recently passed away in Ladakh. He was also quite old already, in his 80s, and normally he couldn't really walk anymore. But when he passed away, he was actually put in an upright position. And also, I mentioned that story the other day about my own relative, who, just to give an example of, sometimes it's better for someone to meet someone before they die. So this old a woman, and she was dying, and then many of her relatives came from far away, and she was so happy about it. And she said she was so grateful that you all came from so far away, and now I'm really content. Now I can die, and please sit me upright in an upright position. And so then she was able to die in that way, in a meditative posture. And that's also important to die actually in such a posture, because then it is easier for the consciousness to leave through the central chakra. I mean, through the crown chakra.
다지 당어도 포와 티카시 나는도와 고지 까네 고지 체 세야지 당어도 지당 루크 안보 호가 건르 고지도 와서와 어때서다 고진 코르베 까콩이 고 힘발 통소나 되네 지뭐 코르발라 젠로야 되네 고지 차자 첨부람 저도지 다 넘버 해봐도 상원이야 통토비나 되네 지 차자 첨부 똑바 제네 야 상지 공모 통도에 어다 되게 용구여 살아와 틀리된 당어서 포와장야 무유직 데려와
In the Phowa instructions, it says that we should block the 8 doors and open 1 door. And 8 doors are the windows or the doors that lead to birth in samsara, and 1 door is the path to Mahamudra. And so that 1 door is the crown opening, the Brahma opening at the crown. But if the consciousness leaves through the crown opening, one realizes Mahamudra and attains enlightenment. And so that is the goal of the Phowa practice.
되네 대가나 있다 당긴 것 라만다고 요나 되네 라마티 카드 되네 추년 되네 저랑다 지 세마타와다 되네 진도 요나 되네 모토 되네 힌도 그레스타 되네 모토 체그도와 다 디가미나 다 단단들라 다 드닝도 메비나스 라고다 지 라마요나 라마 탐보는 모토 체그요로와 그 계시때 메비나 다 시보티게 되네 다 지 엄청 억티도 오지 더동 이제 당다 히다 히사리오로 와 더동 코랑 지 디고 넘버 히바디 코랑게 했더니 지 코랑 수포나를 요로 더동 수포나 요비 좀 센터를 되네 되네 다 초랑 히송레스 초랑 히바이노 스타 초랑 히송레스 네 정말 솜 라보레스
So if one has a lama that can come, then the lama should be invited, and they should give a dharma teaching and introduce the person who died, that they have died, that life is impermanent, and now they have died. And if there is no such a lama, then and somebody has already died, then the consciousness is still inside of their body. And so that is why one should tell them 3 times, you have died.
다 대만이 다 단단가 저디 버도케 다 저도나 대용도 다 참내제 희송미나 양한테네 이제 그런 희요 같은 하고요 말이스 근데 매번 가블테네 그런 소용 그런 스타 relative 거원이요 나한테서 되네 나한테서 용도 되네 그런 개체적으로 라고요 살아와 인다 바로 고우 말와 대개체 마오도 되네 그런 배 공로도 사 되네 배 선바주 대들이 갈래다 가리나 something 다 뭔가 히트네 즉 되네 응어고요 살아와 응어도 되네 다 가리나 때 지행가 희송을 요사 말에서 때 그런 이제 그런 딱진도 지지 되네 즉 님에 나는도 참나도 있다 되네 제메 나는도 되네 즉 강백이 지인도 있고 딱이요 살아와 되네 되네 즉 강백이 지인도 오다 님에 나는도 참나도 메디 되네 그런 배 현황도 휴치고 살아와 되네 다 단다 계속 희와 대가랑 그런 희음이 하고 오면도 대인들이 다 저런 희송을 생각만 솜라
So when somebody has died and comes into the bardo, then often they don't recognize, they don't realize that they have died right away. And they see their relatives come, their family, and they try to talk to them, but there's no response. So nobody hears them. So first that makes them upset, they're angry, they're sad about that. And then slowly they begin to wonder what's happening. And then they see some family members cry, and then they start to wonder, have I died? And then they go to investigate that. And for example, they go into the sun to see if there's a shadow, or they walk in the sand to see if there will be footprints. And then if they cannot find a shadow or footprint, then they're overcome with intense fear all of a sudden, and they realize that they have died. But they don't usually instantly realize that they have died. And so that is why we tell them 3 times.
어다 티니티니 당가서 개천로 올라고 요사로 저랑 시바레스 다 히차레 지랑서 추제케 쳔디 나와는 어제 다 쳔디케 지가서 나와데다 넙차바레스 저랑다 지 무글루 댄스나리 쳔디 나와던 넙스 다 치미 나와네 마샤르다 치미 나마 혁마레스다 치미 나마들 제와 치마다 동거는 랭요 말와 이내양다 단다 저랑케 화도 추닉 화도 나도 유바 뭐시 버지 해다 저 신내와 다 단다 단대 길루트다 배초변 바 차자와 차차와레스 헤레스 이나 다지 말아야 치미제와 랭요 말 다단다 지 파도크 나나 저 디리요레스
So then we talk to them after they have died. And so we tell them, now you have passed away, and the appearance of this life has come to an end. Your body has been left. The future life has not yet manifested. You are in the bardo now. So recognize this bardo of Dharmata.
어다 대초랑 따다 스타 초랑게 제다는 것도 안보고 고가 더 유응하라 저랑 템차레 스타 초랑 하고 오면도 안봉하게 통토그 말에 지 유응하라 통통그 말에스
So we tell them, you have already lost your 5 sense doors. For example, you can't see. When you look at an object, you can't see.
어다 디인도 다 제땅디 나는 거네 디 포베 나온다 디 템렘트 티도 있나다 템렘트 거네 지 총자되다 템렘트도 템차로 봐다 거네 지나 디갑라 다 가리용 거래서나 난크 템렘트 향 거래다 난크 템렘트는 다 모두 치고 그러다 모두 치고 거다 나도 가장 휴인 봐다 저랑 제땅 디 중화 실라 다 템고요래 중화 실이야 태용을 qabla tene ta chikin jungwa he yore, nakin jungwa he yore. Nakin jungwa he de kacha nga so ludin jungwa he chop di yorwa. Te to ongbe kabla, tene chik churwanda wo. Tene pe hena tene yungu yosarwa, pe chu king do wanda wo da, chik rehek do wanda wo da, chik long king do wanda wo da, tene yungu yosarwa, o tene te choran tene hena chigu mares. Te kari sena, choran chiki nakin jungwa he tem do yores. Tega na ye keta, katsang shiwa na ye re, tene choran nawa karbo hegres. Oda nama karbo te yang tene ko shigu mares. Nama karbo te da choran kita nati pai tobe tigli te ma nyinga le lebe da res. Nama karbo. Tene tega na ye kita choran nama marbo hegres mai tigli te tene yar nyingi gan lebe res. Tene te yang tene tala khena chigu mares. Ta tigli karma nyingi samla tene da karse gore. Number heba tombe gabla nama naglam se xiang ro. 다 드리게 출바 간디오는 오다 또 정말다 지 힘이 이렇게 따리 마도 베게고 드리 현아지 고야요 말레스
So then there are stages of dissolution, and so actually after one has died, on the course level, everything has already dissolved. There's an inner dissolution. So then one introduces them to the inner dissolution. There are the outer four elements and there are the inner four elements. And now the inner bodies, the inner four elements dissolving. And so there are various sensations that arise when they dissolve. For example, one has the perception of being carried away by water, like drowning in water, or being crushed by mountains, or being blown away by the wind, and so on. So here we should tell them not to be afraid, that this is just the dissolution of the elements and nothing else. So for example, when the white drop of the father descends down from the crown to the heart, we can remind them, now this is that this white drop is descending down. Now you will have a visionary experience of whiteness. Don't be afraid of that. And next, then the red drop of your mother will go up into your heart and you will have an experience of redness. Do not be afraid of that. And then when the drops merge at the heart, you will experience blackness. And these are all signs of death and just inner sensation. There is nothing to be afraid about.
Tiga na yita tanga chi kinjunga he sa chula tem, chume la tem, me long la tem. Tine ta long number he ba la tem, zidi ta tine ta nga zo te ok chi bara wa, ok chi bara es. Ta tine sundi ta chi ke ta junga he dorem te ca ok chi bara. Yina yang ta tangi kong ti wa re, nang ke temrem de ta dong tem yo ma re. Tine nang ke temne la tine nawa chi ba ni to se ya ta ti nge ma lo ya gins.
So on the outer level first, the course elements dissolve. So the earth element dissolves into water, then the water dissolves into fire, the fire dissolves into wind, and wind dissolves into consciousness. And then the outer breath stops. But then there still is the inner dissolution that is not yet completed. And so the inner dissolution is the dissolution of appearance into increase, and increase into attainment.
다 데리 다 나게 태면 tel라 가리 용데 이제 나게 태면 가운데 다 가서 뇽모베 똑바도 가는 거다. 넘버 해봐 나와라 템비스 되네 팀이비 다지 나마도 세세테니 로지 혈고 살아와 팀이비 남까 나우 혈왔다고 나와 깔람바야 중그레스 대충도 가선다 해당리 초르베 있게 되네. 딱 군도 숨중가 그래스.
So going through the inner dissolution then, and so during the inner dissolution, it is the afflicted thoughts that gradually cease. So first, the outer dissolution goes until consciousness, and then consciousness dissolves into appearance. And when that happens, the perception is like that of a cloud-free, clear sky, filled with white moonlight. And during that time, the 30 concepts of hatred cease.
테네 나와 다 치바 나와 치발라 템베 남카 이야타비 니우다버 테네 니우 샤바 때부 나와 이나 다지가 니우들이 가서 참다 팀바 요베 갑라 니마제 샤비도 와 테네 말람바 용그레스 말람바 중도 티갑라 테네 도차알레 초르베 군도 십중간로 그레스 알레 당에 데틀라선 해당데 숨지라선 숨지 말이 숨지 속섬으로 숨지 속섬간로 그레스 데 나와 치발라 템베 다 남가 야다비 니우 샤와테우 나와 말람바 중도 티갑라 테네 도차알레 초르베 도파 십중가 그레스.
So for hatred, there's actually 33 thoughts. And then when appearance dissolves into increase, then the appearance is like that of a clear sky filled with sunlight, and it experience a perception of redness. And when that arises, the 40 concepts of attachment cease.
다 치바들 니토블라 템베스 드네 남카 야타바 참지 마크 차비 따부 나와 나람바 종행 스타 칼레칼레 당 무록도 그러와 테네 종행 템바 냠네 나톰베 티메든도 테 뜨목레 초르베다 군도 눈간도 그레스.
And then increase dissolves into attainment, and the perception of that is like that of a clear sky that is getting dark. So when it's getting dark, so slowly it just turns black. And so that is when one then loses consciousness. And with that, the 7 concepts of ignorance cease.
Do you understand? So, okay.
Quick question. Before all this stuff, Rinpoche said how at the very beginning of this process, well, first we tell the person, hey, you have died. We tell them 3 times. Then Rinpoche said, and then we tell them, hey, your 5 senses, they're finished. And that they can't see anymore, they can't hear. One thing I'm not clear about is that after they have like the vision of like their relatives? Because once again, what I don't understand is like, how can they see their relatives?
Yeah, relatives before.
Okay.
Okay.
Now we're clear.
Yeah.
And I'm putting the pieces together, a lot of pieces. The attainment of Mahamudra, is it possible before you die? From what I'm understanding?
Right.
Like, you can if I'm getting this right, like a lot of the merit and everything opens up certain doors for other realms of certain rebirths, right? And then certain negative things, close certain doors. So then when we die, a lot of the meditative practices that we are skillful enough to be able to navigate into different, higher realms, right? But then I also am grasping this concept that when we die, we can obtain Mahamudra at that moment, or is it possible to obtain that, liberation in this livelihood? Does that make sense?
All right, yes.
It's a lot, right? So conceptualize this all, but I heard it on the way here, and then it just so happens I walked in the door and heard it again. So.
That just not the corner of an Yidoa. Mahamud and Gon Georgesona. Today, that Gashila Koji, Takoti exactly the kind of somebody really individual in Sarawa. Manda Yosari in Angahita, Chik Pena, Chik Koran, Beda, Chik Mut Madongone, Ko Chik Chachamo Topango and Yon, Casamalari Pek Sonwa, Chillazam, Relagom, Chimini Chillat on the Relagom star, that the Relagom Gombecabla, Tanga, Chimini with Sensa says on the Tini. Tini the winner that got under the Topa Koranke, Kojik Moneta Mashmone Koransan Jets Howard, Tinium Yosaris. Ina Yanta, Yanka so jailer Tandang Troset the Toga that Tanati. That Tandan Dele Nanga Chehota Togoda, now a Galam Tongo the Love and Extra.
So, as you said, when somebody has already actualized Mahamudra, so then it's different. So it depends. Not everyone is exactly the same, and it's very individual. There's all kinds of individuals. So there's some who have actualized Mahamudra before they die. For example, someone like Milarepa. Milarepa said, I feared death, so I went to meditate in the mountains. And meditating in the mountains, I have found deathlessness, immortality. And so there are those who have already attained enlightenment, realization before they die. But then there's others for whom, this, what we are speaking about here now, this is their crossroads, their crucial point of attaining liberation.
That in the Tangazola Cariores, some Majayaketa, obscuration, deba Cariores, that debates on door did Huina, Atene, Sibit neck of deba Sundua. That Sibit neck of the deba, Sayate Kalab Gorsena, Tangato Tandabe, Sibit neck up. Not so Ambong. Yung and the Chanet in the dig debatele, Tanangazota, Charge Chimbosenari, Ransam, Jortuio Marwa, Jorio Mares. Tenepenangazota, Malamji debas, the young as Nico de Becavla, Chick Ambongata, Yunga Yomar, Gathari, could deba Yomari. Yena Yam Malam could debate the Yam Malam Romi, Tanico imagination, Malam Korama. My budget, but Royam, Lamdoji immediately, T. Debne, Kongasota, Charge Chimbo compound, Senari, Ransam, Gotan, Jorto Mari. Tintati could get on to pay a boy, the Tatinga so Benino cover that. That debaji cursed Nitok debars only. That Nitok debajita, and then deal heaven the garanta, Yaman as ni be Tubo David to Dawacha the ore. Penangas Nito debadi, ni Tubo Kosona, Tangonechina, Sibit Neka debayan, your Mari, Melam Neka debayan, your Mari, Yenayan, Ta, Semcor anatomy, the young. Tindu, Ta Nito debadi, young, Ransam, Mot, Jorto, your Mari. oda ti indu ta ti ta ta ti kojing dawo jirwa ta ngu ne chu ta tandan nenga de to yore ta tandan de la kartu yore de jetan ta de jetan ni yore ta tangi nawa kala malam thile thi ganje khaso ta te maybe na ta nawa kalam ke khedang ke tenga khedang samanga chare te nawa malam ke doja tokpa samanga chare ta nawa nalam te ta tere ta temok tokpa samanga chare ta ngoni ta ta thog je ta zo karsena ngaso nyom momba senare deba senare deba sena ta thog je nyom momba som ki chenchi ne ngaso ta hidewari bi ni bo debyo wa te deb no gore ta nenga ta karthog diore ta nenga chehot kya yagida
So this state of enlightenment and liberation is obscured by obscurations. And so these obscurations in brief there are the obscurations of the waking state. So that is right now. Right now we are awake. When we are awake, then there is this obscuration of the 5 sense doors being attached to the 5 sense objects, and that obscures our view of Mahamudra, or the nature of the mind. And then the second obscuration is the obscuration of the dream state. When we are asleep in the dream, we do not have the obscuration of those 5 sense doors and objects, but we have the obscuration of the dreams, because in our dreams we have all kinds of imaginations that arise, it's like things that don't really exist that we see in our dreams. And so due to this obscuration, again, we don't see the nature of our mind, our Mahamudra. And then there is the obscuration of the deep sleep state, and that is actually quite similar to the death state. When we're in a deep sleep state, we do not have the obscuration of the waking state active. We also do not have the obscuration of the dream state, but the mind is in a state of complete darkness. So again, we are obscured. We can't see the nature of our mind. So this is really the key point that we're speaking about here now. So we have said after death, then when the whiteness appears, all thoughts or concepts of hatred cease. When redness appears, all concepts of attachment cease. When blackness appears, all concepts of ignorance cease. And so mainly, what obscures us are the afflictive emotions. There's 3 poisons: attachment, hatred, and ignorance. These 3 poisons obscure our Buddha nature. So here at this point, when we speak about this dissolution here, we really have actually come to the most critical, most important point.
Ta kechi mo karda ta tanda tila ta nangwa naglam te ji kharongbe kabla ta naglam te ta ji tusu ringtong yosarawa tini ji chongbe kabla ta nangwa naglam ta ji sanggo da ta yar ji sangdu ta nga ta wose la wada ta wose nangwa ya kya thi kabla ta nga so tokpa yomare nyombe tokpa yomara tsama tsangchang automatically kora 다 냠래 칭게 이나 다 ngō 그래 냠래 마진케는 ngō 그 말이 맞도베 고지 생현 상마 티가 두수 둥둥지라 다 코나 베데 상마 상창고 pure 드니지 다 랩기도와 다 티가라 가서다 상지 소 바도라 상지 랩데 다 워세 마우투 랩기도와 티인디 워세 마우투 해 워세 다 랑줄이 요베 키데와리 비키 닝보티 대당 단다다 람제 그 워세티니 보데 마부투 세나다 간다 티간다 돈다 지는 상지 그래 다 상지세 케다 코라 베갑 너워지 다 가스 운도 텔차도 다던데라 karsana koti nyommo yomarwa ta manche tangi kontiba na the really highest practitioner na wina ji milari pa na wina kota mashingole sanjegrwa yena yata most the practitioners higher practitioners ko sanjesa tela ta padol thor jita tandandela osindi gan osembamde jita dinal ta thorgo ta thoya ka khokap de ta pe yore ta digalo automatically karsena de tuksom ki nyom to so samanga gorwa wata digana nga so osembamde se padol sanji se ta tineji yore ndele ji yore
And so the key point here, why this is such a crucial point here. So but at that time when everything has dissolved, so we are in this experience of blackness. And after this experience of blackness, the blackness is cleared away in an instant and luminosity begins to dawn. And during in this state, after the blackness, when luminosity dawns, there is no concept at all in our mind. The mind is completely pure, automatically, naturally. So if one is a practitioner, one may recognize the nature of the mind, the luminosity here. Or if one is not a practitioner, one may not recognize it. But all sentient beings, at least for a short time, come to that state. Everyone, when everything has dissolved, naturally comes to this completely pure mind. And so when one recognizes that, that is what we call attaining enlightenment in the Bardo, or we call that the mother and the child luminosity meet. So the mother luminosity is the basis, the ground luminosity, and that is one's own Buddha nature. And then the child luminosity is the path luminosity, is one's own practice. So they become one, they meet, and one attains enlightenment. So here at this point, one has actually a window, an opportunity for enlightenment, because there is no afflictive emotion at that time. And the highest, of course, the highest practitioner, somebody like Milarepa, has already attained enlightenment before they have died. But most practitioners, most other higher practitioners, they attain liberation in the Bardo at this point, when they recognize the luminosity at this point. So here at this point, we have an incredible opportunity actually to attain liberation, because here automatically the three poisons, the afflictive emotions, are absent. And within that state, one can recognize luminosity. And so when one does, then this is called attaining enlightenment in the Bardo, or the meeting of the mother and child luminosity.
What a di da nenga tellere. Da di nenga ti gana da nga so tormato vina. Tene nga so pardo zunda da jetanga so pardo tela. Da ringda la tene hyaship shirgu yore zonda. Yine bi bon pardo. Da pardo jendo ko da yang. Da pardo jedu yang pardo ke tanda na yi jikwa nga so da tene ma sonde yang soud chogu yore da. So pardo yilute tene jik pardo yilute yang ko sa chue me long jungwan do chi ti gang la ngam ra ko ra so wan do jik me yung be ka la me jik wa chu yung be ka la chu jik wa sa ina sa jik wa long in long jik wa do chi tene ya che wan do jik len tene ko ra ya ta nga chol sam no ta na pardo so do thong gu yo ma ti ne ya ko ra ta che wa len go da so gu yo wan do tene te ga na ye ko ra ambong nga tene te ga na ye ke ta tindi je ke tene pardo ki ta che wa len do gu yo wa Tinda, in a teen on it, I don't think Mamma do. Jeta Chuni Padona Langatota, Latus Tongo Sangutuna, the Tortu Gurua. In that young Panda, Coca Yashode, Tanandel Chadiores.
And so then if one does not become liberated at this point, then one goes on into the Bardo, the actual Bardo. And the longest period of time one spends there in this bardo of becoming is 49 days. And so here one does possess what is called a mental bardo body. And so to the bardo being, one actually has sort of like a body. And one does have an experience of the elements, earth, water, fire, wind. For example, one is afraid of being burned by fire or drowning in water or being crushed by earth or being blown away by the wind. So one does experience the elements, even though we cannot see that bardo body physically, but that bardo body is on his way of taking birth and does experience his body through 5 sense doors before he's taking birth again. So before he gets into that bardo, there's the bardo of Dharmata in the beginning. Before going into bardo of becoming, there's the bardo of Dharmata, and here the various deities manifest. And if one recognizes the deities, then one becomes liberated. And so just at this point, before one actually goes into the bardo, this is the best opportunity to become liberated.
어다 대간나기 타는 거 공지 휴인바 현감도 통구여서와 현감으로 통해 제 혈종공부가 완다고는 배나고 와사겐다올라 이엔도구여서와 되네 혈종공부를 소조 나온 다예 말다 높죠 인다카나 와파미 현감도 되네 주르서 되기요레스 소조를 연중내려와 되게 장접 레랍도 발라서다 현감 뭐지 되네다 가서 직배데 갈세 거다 TV 스크린 히한다고 되는다고 자기여서와 슬라이 거래 슬라이 쇼한다고 되는데 고 용구여서와 되는다고 되네 디쇼를 되네 라도 정말 용구여다 이는 라지 원투비나 되네 담보라 히와 베나라 히와다 힙스장이요래 라히와도 통 되네 디쇼글다 라히와다 인다깔리 카르칸로고다 대래 마선도 다 라타고도 통거와 타고동도 다 지금 라트 유메나 되네 이제 현안으로 들이 용구여서와 인다 고초는 되고다 다 디가나 되네 참망고만도 되네 다고 지화부 땅원에 당에 컴플레인도 오지 되네 다본 인다 파돌라 지발랜도 그러와
And so then during this bardo of Dharmata, the various pure lands manifest one. And they manifest for just a flash of an instant. So, for example, just like on a TV screen, if you have a projector and a slideshow, it's like one after the other, just like flashes by. So first, for example, you see the Eastern Pure Land of Manifest Joy, and you see the Southern Pure Land of Jewel endowed, and the Northern Pure Land of complete activity, and so on. And then the Western Pure Land of Amitabha, that stays a little bit longer. So we see all these deities. And of course, whenever we recognize the deity, we become liberated. But it becomes increasingly difficult. So it starts easier. So first, the 42 peaceful deities appear. And then it gets more difficult. If we don't recognize them, then the wrathful deities appear. And then if you're not familiar with them, we might be afraid of those wrathful deities. Of course, if you recognize them, again, you become liberated. But if you do not recognize any of that during this stage of the bardo, then you're really taking birth in the actual bardo.
If you see the deity and you become liberated, is that the point where the Bodhisattva has a choice to take birth back as a human again? When does the process of the Bodhisattva coming back? You understand what I mean? Because we know that at a certain point, some people, some liberated beings choose to take birth back in the human realm, to help. Do they have like a choice if the Pure Lands open up? Can they choose to walk through the door or choose to go? Kind of the way I'm looking at it, like they have an option, right?
right.
I'm trying to figure it out, right? Just get a kind of idea. Does that make sense?
다디 여러 가서 제당 가서 다 단다 장접 선배께 tene ngazo Changchub simji da jeda Changchub simbi domba hyuwi ka la tene je nga simjian ke tong chi yin se ya da tene jetang ngazo simji de la simji de da jarbo da wi simji nyamba da wi simji lux da wi simji sidita pena lux da wi simji ina tene je tangbo lo tsu tsangma ya ri gang la nga ti korang je li yung gurwa tene simji de yuwi ina tene chigda kor sanje simchen tsangma sang je ma tsa wada korang sang je gi men simchen tong chi gi se ya ta tene ke tangbo Changchub sem ke thau ji yu na tanda chorang laba nang ji re jig deji de ngo xie ba ta ga rang la ta chuan ro gro liberation tene yang korang laba nang ji re yang ko simchen ke tong chi ya sang ji tu ba tene yong tok yo re is
When we take the Bodhisattva vow, we're taking a commitment to benefit all sentient beings. And then there are different levels of Bodhisattva vow, different levels of mind generation. There is the, the king-like bodhicitta, there is the captain-like bodhicitta, and there is the shepherd-like bodhicitta. So if you develop the shepherd-like bodhicitta, then the intention is to let all sentient beings attain enlightenment first, and only then you will attain enlightenment. So if that is the motivation when taking the Bodhisattva vow, and then as a result of this motivation, when you recognize those deities and so on, then you first become liberated, but then again you will come back as like a Buddha emanation in order to benefit sentient beings.
I think I know the answer to this, but I just want to double check. So, what does it exactly mean to recognize the deities? Is it simply understanding that those, from what I read, those wild colors, those bright lights that ordinary people will see, that those are in fact Buddhas? Is it as simply as recognizing that, hey, those let's say wild, bright colors, those are Buddhas. It's nothing to be afraid of. They're benevolent, Buddhas. And then writing off of that, is this why we practice pure perception while alive, trying to see, in a lot of sense they say, see all appearance as the deity. Is this almost like a preparation to see those art of phenomena also as deities?
Rita ti nang la tanda di lava ti ta ngu ni su ku par de la ro la ben na cha xiao yin ta tanda nga zo image di la ta la nga zo ta de be ji yo re lu kan da la ji ngo xie go da la ji ngo xie na thong ro de la de ngo ni ta tanda nga zo ji nyam na chi bi ne ka ndo ma ri ti ka la ta la kha ri na la ji ngo xie na de yo da thong ro yo de is
So when the actual deities appear, the point is that you have to recognize any of them. If you recognize one deity, whichever one, you will become liberated. And so it doesn't have to be the particular deity that we are practicing right now. We can recognize any deity. As long as you recognize the deity, you become liberated.
There is the Pardo story, maybe not much time, so so the one I think actually we called Pardo Tudu, Pardo prayer. So one time their story is one time the Lama reading the Pardo prayers. So there's in the Pardo there's all the deities' name and the color and whatever head, like particular there's Ratpo deities. So their story is one the Lama reading. And then this one woman served the tea. So that time is the Lama reading like okay, one like a deity, the pigeon head from the east, right? So that's he hearing, but also he kind of keep the mind, so he didn't forget. So because we really important to the kind of deities, look at the deities, recognize deities. So anyway, so then their story is he was in the Pardo so maybe the good chance maybe he didn't get, So we said like killer light and so on, or pure land, killer light. But anyway, then there's all the past the peaceful deities, and the wrathful deity come. So then he saw the pigeon head, the deity. So that moment, oh, this is deity. So instead of something, animal. So then he liberated. So this Papakadayana, or what is it? I think this this one Lama. So he has the clairvoyance of what's happening. This they can see. So, but yes, you have to recognize one deity, then liberate.
If you see the flash of a pure realm and you say, oh, that's a pure realm, are you also liberating if you recognize?
Right. So actually, this so really is the kind of right now, basically is the not like the all power by the affect emotions. So that's we chance like in the Pado we know scary and no worries. So they can naturally understanding, recognize, But then if our lives right now and this kind of affect emotions, worry, scary, whatever, just kind of too much affect emotions. And these bring truth in the Pado, and Pado there's more conflict, similar, more scary, more worry. Then just kind of the different experience. So, but also they're saying just if we able to control now affect emotions, but they said really there is no Pado, no need go there. So now we maybe stop here. So we dedication, little more dedication.
Page 17. Glorious, holy, venerable, precious, kind, root, and lineage lamas, divine assembly of yidams and assemblies of Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, yogins, yoginis, and dakinis dwelling in the 10 directions, please hear my prayer. May the virtues collected in the 3 times by myself and all sentient beings in samsara and nirvana and the innate root of virtue not result in the 8 worldly concerns, the 4 causes of samsara, or rebirth as a Shravaka or Pratyekya Buddha. May all mother sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me and mine, obstructors who harm, misleading Maras, and the hordes of demons experience happiness, be separated from suffering, and swiftly attain unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious Buddhahood. By the power of this vast root of virtue, may I benefit all beings through my body, speech, and mind. May the afflictions of desire, hatred, ignorance, arrogance, and jealousy not arise in my mind. May attachment to fame, reputation, wealth, honor, and concern for this life not arise for even a moment. May my mind stream be moistened by loving kindness, compassion, and bodhicitta, and through that may I become a spiritual master with good qualities equal to the infinity of space. May I gain the supreme attainment of Mahamudra in this very life. May the torment of suffering not arise at the time of my death. May I not die with negative thoughts. May I not die confused by wrong view. May I not experience an untimely death. May I die joyfully and happily in the great luminosity of mind as such, and the pervading clarity of Dharmata. May I, in any case, gain the supreme attainment of Mahamudra at the time of death or in the bardo.
Thank you. Thank you, Ina. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
I'll be home on Wednesday. Oh, I'll see you at home.